Good day! For today's video lesson, we are going to talk about Module 10, which is Information Processing. This is Jeppy C. Dirudor, your reporter for today's video. Okay, what comes to our mind when we hear 1 plus 1? Sagutin mo nga, diba? 2. Kasi alam naman natin yung sagot 2. That's a basic knowledge about math. And that's how information processing works. Kaya mamaya malalaman natin kung paano nga ba ang way ng information processing when it comes to teaching and learning process. Okay, but first, let's proceed to the learning objectives. Sabi dito, in this module, you are challenged to attain the following learning outcomes. In this lesson, as a student, you should be able to describe the processes involved in acquiring, storing, and retrieving knowledge. Nakikita natin dito yung acquiring, storing, and retrieving knowledge. Mamaya, ituturo ko sa inyo kung paano nga ba yung process, kung paano natin ma-attain ang isang information and how this process works in our mind. The information works in our mind. Okay? Next, as a student, you should be able to cite educational implications of the theory on information processing. Yes, dito makikita natin yung types of knowledge that we have, 5 yun, and also the stages of information processing theory. There are 3 main stages or primary stages pala, and executive control process and also the forgetting. Mamaya makikita natin kung ano yun. Now, let's start with the information processing. Ano nga ba ang information processing? Sabi dito, it is a cognitive theoretical framework that focuses on how knowledge enters and is stored in and is retrieved from our memory. So, yun na nga, enters, stored, and retrieved. Bumapasok yung information sa utak natin. Kaya na lang kanina, 1 plus 1. Diba narinig natin? So, encoded that information in our mind. So, nakastore na yung 2 sa utak natin kasi alam naman natin from basic knowledge na 2 talaga ang sagot sa 1 plus 1. And kaya nating ibalik or retrieve. Kaya nating ibalik yung information na ang sagot sa 1 plus 1 is equals 2 from our memory kasi nakatatak na sa utak natin, nakastore sa atin na 2 talaga ang sagot sa 1 plus 1. Okay? That's how information processing works. And this information processing is actually one of the most significant cognitive theories in the last centuries. And it has a strong implication on the learning teaching process. Kasi noong 1950s, ginawa to ni George Miller and other American psychologists na information processing theory. Okay? Do you understand? So, in the next slide, we have here the information processing theory organizer. Makikita natin on the left side, we have the type of knowledge, or types of knowledge pala, sorry. And dito, makikita natin yung 5. And these are general or specific, declarative, procedural, episodic, and conditional. Mamaya, I will explain each one of them. And in the center naman, makikita naman natin yung stages. These are the primary stages, 3 primary stages of information processing theory. We have encoding, storage, and retrieval. Kanina, napag-usapan na rin natin to sa definition ng information processing. Yung enter, which is the encoding, storing, the storage, and retrieving, the retrieval. And also, we have here the control processes, executive control processes. Dito, i-discuss ito mamaya ni Miss Maria Pamela T. Domino kasi siya yung naka-assign dito sa executive control processes. Okay? Let's proceed to the information processing theory definition talaga. Kung kanina, we talked about information processing. In this slide, we are going to talk about the theory naman of information processing itself, or IPT, or also known as the IPT, the acronym of it. Sabi dito, it is an approach to cognitive development studies that aims to explain how information is encoded into our memory. Kapag sinabing theory, it is a studied scientific method or cognitive development that aims to explain kung paano nga ba yung information na ka-encode sa ating memory, kung paano natin i-process ang isang information. Kagaya na lang nitong sinasabi ko ngayon, nakikinig ka sa akin and you are trying to process this information I am trying to teach to you. Okay? Dito, sabi pa rito, this theory was developed by George Miller and also other American psychologists in 1950s. Bakit nga ba ginawa tong theory na to? Kasi the human mind relates on how the computer works. Alam naman natin yun, di ba? Kasi computer also knew how to encode information just like the human mind. It also knows how to store information just like the human mind, and also how to retrieve or kaya ibalik an information because the computer also like na nag-remember man sinda when it comes to information just like the human mind. Okay? The process of computer and human mind are very similar talaga. Cognitive psychologists believe that cognitive processes involve the nature of what is learned. They consider learning as largely an internal process. So kapag sinabi nating internal process, nasa loob ng utak natin kung paano natin i-process ang isang information. Not what behavioral theorist believes na through external behavioral change or external behavior change. Kasi totoo naman, di ba, kapag nag-process natin tayo ng information, it's through internal, nasa loob natin, nasa mind natin. And alam naman natin na brain is one of the most important body parts of human system, and nasa loob yon because they believe that they look into how we receive, perceive, store, and retrieve information. Sabi pa rito, they believe that how a person thinks about and interprets what he or she receive shape what he or she will learn. All this comprise into what is called information processing. Okay? This theory describes how the learner receives information, stimuli from the environment through the senses, and what takes place in between determines whether the information will continue to pass through the sensory registers, then the short-term memory and the long-term memory. Later on this discussion, you will find out what are the sensory registers, and I will also explain the short-term memory and also the long-term memory. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the types of knowledge. We have here 5 types of knowledge. Kung kanina, nakita natin sa diagram, yung or organizer, yung types of knowledge, di ba nasa left side yun ng video? Nasa left side ba? Yes, nasa left side. And we found out na may 5, and these are general versus specific. We have the declarative, the procedural, episodic, and conditional. So, the types of knowledge are actually the first thing to consider that the learner may receive. So, let's start with a general versus specific. Sabihin mo, general versus specific. Ulitin mo. Sabihin mo ulit. Okay. General versus specific. Sabi dito, this involves whether the knowledge is useful in many tasks or in only one. Alam naman natin siguro ang term na general, pati naman ang specific. Kapag sinabi natin general, napaka-broad. For example, birds. Pag naisip mo yung birds, maiisip mo lahat ng birds. All different types or species. Napaka-general, napaka-broad. So, kung sasabihin ng teacher mo, i-list down mo lahat ng birds na alam mo, so, i-list down mo. Kasi, napaka-broad, napaka-general, masyadong maraming birds. And we knew, our mind knew how to specify naman when it comes to specific. Sasabihin ng teacher mo, birds, pero hindi nakalupad. So, ma-list down ka. For example, penguin, ostrich, or kiwi. Those kind of birds cannot fly. And sinasabi lang dito sa types of knowledge nito na general versus specific, kaya natin ng utak natin mag-process ang isang information kung general ba siya or to specify. And tandaan nyo lang na it involves whether the knowledge is useful in many tasks or only in one. Okay? Do you understand? Now, let's proceed to the next one, which is declarative. Okay. Now, we have here the declarative. Kapag sinabi nating declarative in English sentence, it always ends with a dot. Pero dito, this is about knowing what. Kaya, it also refers to factual knowledge. Kapag sinabi nating factual knowledge, it means totoo, or magagamit, or very useful knowledge about myself. And a perfect example for this is my name. Kapag magtanong sa akin ang name ko, sasabihin ko Jeppy. Kasi, totoo yun. Diba? Jeppy naman ang pangalan ko. That's a factual knowledge about me. And also, another one is my address. Sasabihin ko, Barangay Pating, Purok Bangkulas, Masbate City. My address is a factual information or knowing what. Pero may sinabi dito, they may be in a form of a word or an image. Image, what are the factual image? For example, is the face of your special someone. For example, your crush, mother. So, sa akin, mother. Sasabihin ko mother. So, magpo-pop up yun sa head ko agad. That's a declarative information. Na-process agad yung information sa utak ko. And we have that kind or type of knowledge sa ating sarili. Okay? Naintindihan nyo ba yung concept ng declarative? Sabihin mo nga, declarative. Undeclarative and knowing what, tandaan mo lang ina siya na term. Na it and also refers in factual knowledge. Okay? After declarative, we have here the procedural. Sabihin mo nga, procedural. Ulitin mo, sabihin mo procedural. Okay, this is about knowing how. Kung kanina sa declarative, it is about knowing what. Sa declarative yun ha. Dito naman sa knowing how is the procedural. Kasi it includes knowledge on how to do things. How to do things. For example na lang of this is cooking rice. Paano ba magsap na isang luto? Maaraw naman siguro tayo lahat, di ba? Siyempre, matakos ka sa bugas. And after that, makilis ka. And pag nalinisan na, di ba ginasukol naton using our fingers because we are Asian. Just a simple gestures like that, we follow na procedures. For example naman of this, another one is assembling a furniture. For example, nagbakal ka sa lamesa, di ba? I-assemble mo ang lamesa from the table itself to the stand. Kasi marunong tayo mag-assemble. Knowing how to do things. And another one, the last one example is tying a shoelace. Marunong naman siguro tayo magsintas ng sapatos, di ba? Lahat naman tayo siguro marunong. And it is one of the perfect example procedural. Knowing how, or it involves the knowledge on how to do things. Okay? Naintindihan nyo ba? Tandaan nyo lang, kapag knowing how, procedure agad yan. Or procedural. Because we follow procedures. Knowing how to do things. Knowing how. Okay? Okay. After procedural, we have the episodic. Which is, includes memories of life events. Ano bang mga life events sa buhay natin? Just like the flashback, ganun rin yung human mind natin when it comes to episodic. Because we all have this kind of knowledge. O type of knowledge. And memories of life events. Merong masaya, merong malungkot. Sa malungkot, meron tayong death of a loved ones or nasunugan ng bahay. Malungkot yun, di ba? And also, from some episodic naman sa masaya, meron tayong high school graduation. Here's an example from Silliman University. And if you're looking for my piece in that picture, wala po ako dyan. So, that's an example lang. Na high school graduation serves a happy memory of life events from our past. Okay? Naintindihan nyo ba? Kapag episodic, memories of life events. Sabihin nyo pala episodic. And episodic includes memories of life events. Alam naman natin yun ha. Episodic, episode, memories of life events. Now, we are in the final type of knowledge, which is conditional. Sabihin mo nga, conditional. Okay, sabi dito, it is about knowing when and why. So, tandaan mo ha, knowing when and why. Kasi kanina, sa declarative, that is knowing what. And sa procedural naman, knowing how. Dito naman sa conditional, this is about knowing when and why to apply declarative or procedural strategies. Example na lang dito is when you are filling up a form. Diba, kapag hiningi yung pangalan mo, sa condition na yon, ilalagay mo yung name mo. Or sa procedural naman, 'di ba declarative yung name. Sa procedural naman is kung sunod o kung nauna ba ang apelyido mo. For example, Dirodar, tas pangalan mo Jeppy, tapos middle name Campo. Oh, that was the procedural knowing when and why. For another example for this is ang condition sa panahon. Kung condition sa panahon is masama, madara ka sa payong, 'di ba? Sabi din knowing when. Sano ka madara sa payong kapag tikaura na or nagauran? And why? Nano kay madara kang payong? Of course, kay madara kang payong because mauran para hindi ka mabasa. Okay? Do you understand the concept of conditional type of knowledge? Naintindihan ba? Okay, now let's proceed. Before we proceed, tandaan muna natin yung 5 types of knowledge that we have. We have, for the first one, general versus specific. Marunong tayo mag-generalize ng isang information and also to specify it. Kaya nga versus kasi sa dalawa. Next, we have declarative, which is knowing what. For example of that is your name. By name is Jeppy. And after that, we have the procedural, which is knowing how. It involves knowing how to do things. And also, the fourth one is episodic. It includes memories of life events. And also the last one, conditional, knowing when and why. Okay? Please keep that in mind. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the 3 primary stages of information processing theory. These are the 3 primary stages in information processing theory. Kapag sinabi natin stages, ano dapat? Kailangan dapat sunod-sunod. So, the first one here is encoding. And the second one is storage. And the next one is retrieval. Okay, tandaan mo yan ha. ESR. Encoding, storage, retrieval. Encoding, storage, retrieval. Okay, tandaan na ba? Ulitin mo nga. Encoding, storage, retrieval. Repeat after me. Encoding, storage, retrieval. Sunod-sunod dapat yun ha. Because this is a stages. Okay, let's proceed to the definition. Sabi dito, encoding, information is sensed, perceived, and attended to. So na-sense mo ng isa na information, or nakalap mo ng isa na information, or nakuha mo, or narinig mo, or basta nag-process na siya sa information. Pares na lang sa example san, ginsugo ka sa mama mo magbakal sa lana. That information nag-encode na ito na information sa mind mo na mabahal ka sa lana. And now, the next part is followed by storage, which is gin-store mo na ito na information sa utak mo. Sabi dito, the information is stored for either a brief, malikli lang, or extended or mahaba period of time, depending upon the process of following encoding. Yun ang sumunod sa encoding, ang storage. Kasi after mo makalap ang isang information, in-store mo yun for future purposes, kagaya na lang na mabahal ka sa lana. So, habang nakakaduha na sa tindahan o sa sari store na sa utak mo na mabahal ka sa lana. And after that, the last one is retrieval. Sa retrieval naman, sabi dito, the information is brought back, bumalik sa'yo yung information or na-remember mo na mabahal ka sa lana. So nag-addo ka na sa sari store, sasabihin mo, pabakalaman lana. So, nadumduman mo. That is the true measure of effective memory. So, sabi dito, brought back at the appropriate time and activated for the use on a current task. So, tama yung example ko na na-activate yung information na sa memory mo na ang information na mabahal ka sa lana. From encoding, naging sugo ka lang, to storage, naging keep in mind mo ito siya. Yung stock mo siya dito sa utak mo hanggang sa nag-abot ka sa tindahan na na-retrieve mo ang information na mabahal ka sa lana. And that is the true measure of effective memory. Okay? Naintindihan ba tong concept na to? Ganun yung information processing works in human mind. Okay, in this slide, we can see here the sensory register. The first step in the IP model or information processing model holds all sensory information for a very brief time. Dito makikita natin ang dalawa, capacity and the duration. Okay, kapag sinabi natin capacity, ito yung kapasidad na kayang ma-hold natin ang isang information. At kapag sinabi naman natin duration, ito naman yung time kung kaya natin paano ma-hold itong information na to. Okay, yun lang po yung simpleng concept about this capacity and duration. Because mamaya in short-term memory and long-term memory, ipapaliwanag ko po ulit siya. Okay? Sabi dito sa auditory is more persistent. Auditory memory is more persistent than visual kasi mas mabilis magkalap ng information ang ating auditory memory when it comes to duration kaysa sa visual. Kasi when it comes to pronouncing a word, hindi natin ginakita mismo ang word. Instead, we hear it or nagapasuyo kita na kung samputon ninda ito or i-pronounce ninda ito na word para maarma naton. So, I think the duration is more faster when someone said the word to you. Okay? Do you get what I mean? Kuwari, nahihirapan kasi ito na mag-pronounce ito na word. So, pinaparakita mo lang siya. So, you won't able to know how to pronounce that word. So, instead, nag-ask ka sa classmate mo kung paano ito siya i-pronounce na word and your auditory memory is your, pag nagsulod na ito na memory to you, to encode it, and to store it, maalala mo na siya kasi someone pronounced it to you. Do you get what I mean? Okay, in this slide, we have the role of attention. So, to bring information into consciousness, it is necessary that we give attention to it. So, tama naman, di ba? Kaya kung gusto mo ito na information magkada sa imong consciousness, at least give your attention to it. For example, na lang sa discussion, your teacher is discussing something and nikablik ka sang katakin mo kay hindi ka nagapamati. When it comes to discussing the sabi magpamati ka sini kay kailangan ini naton na information. Give your whole attention to it. Okay? Do you get the Kasi attention plays a major role in information processing. And the next one, we see here, the getting through this attentional filter is done when the learner is interested in the material. Tama naman, di ba? Kaya kung interested kasi ito sa na bagay, ginahatag mo talaga ang attention mo dito. For example is, may na-met ka na person na same ka mo interest dito na bagay, may same interest ka mo, and you started talking about it na passionate talaga ka mo dito na material or thing or same interest, and at least you give attention to it, di ba? Kasi you both knew what you are talking about. Kasi you are both interested in that. Kaya ang attention nyo ato gyapon, evident gyapon. And also, in the last one, we have before the information is perceived, it is known as pre-categorical information. Of course, pre-categorical, hindi mo pa siya kaya i-categorize, kaya gintawag siya na pre-categorical. Kasi, pag hindi mo araman usad na bagay, ginhatag mo man ang attention mo dito. For example, ang teacher nyo naghatag sa 4 pictures of snakes, species of snakes. And ato dito iguan rattlesnake, may anaconda, and cobra. Pero sa panupad na picture, may dili nyo talaga aram kung nani ito siya. Ginhulaan nyo na tanan, pero no. Dili nyo gyapon mahulaan. Kaya naghatag ka mo sa attention dito. Kaya ginasubukan nyo ito hulaan na species of snake. Tapos, ang attention nyo is makusog sito na picture, the last picture, kasi hindi nyo ito aram. So, pre-categorical. bago nyo siya mai-categorize or i-reveal na ba sa teacher nyo na Python gali ito siya, masabi ko mo, Python pala yan, and na-categorize nyo na siya, na Python pala siya sa species of snake. Okay, in this slide here, we have the short-term memory. Sabihin mo nga, short-term memory. Ulitin mo. Okay, or STM, or working memory. Bakit siya sinabing working memory? Sabi dito, it is called working memory because it is where new information is temporarily placed while it is mentally processed. So, new information siya. Posible mo siyang makalimutan someday. And sabi dito sa capacity, limited lang siya. So, di ba, short-term memory, short, maikli lang talaga. And sabi dito, the STM can only hold 5 to 9 chunks of information, sometimes described as 7 plus over negative 2. And sa duration niya, makikita natin, it is around 18 seconds or less. Diba? Segundo lang. So, posible na makalimutan mo talaga ito na information. Paano mo dili ito makalimutan na information? Sabi nila, you need to do, or you have to do the maintenance rehearsal. Sabihin mo nga, maintenance rehearsal. Ulitin mo. Okay, maintenance rehearsal. Kailangan mo ulit-ulitin yung term or your word para hindi mo makalimutan. For example of this is, bumili ka ng bagong SIM card. Of course, pag bagong SIM card, new number. Diba? Paano mo para hindi makalimutan ang number mo? Diba? Inuulit-ulit mo yung number mo. For example, my number, 091223000901. 091223000901. Diba? Mabilis yon. Kasi, in-apply ko yung pag-uulit-ulit, yung maintenance rehearsal, para hindi ko makalimutan yung phone number ko. Kaya yun, nasa ulo ko siya sa mabilis. Okay? Intindihan nyo ba yung concept ng short-term memory? Kapag short lang na maiksi lang talaga siya. And yung capacity niya, limited lang. And also, yung duration niya, 18 seconds or less. So, segundo lang talaga siya. Okay? Naintindihan na ba? Proceed naman tayo sa long-term memory. Kapag sinabi namang long-term memory, ulitin mo nga, sabihin mo, long-term memory. Ulitin mo. Okay, long-term memory. Diba? LTM. Ang iya acronym. Sabi dito, LTM is the final or permanent storing house for memory information. It holds the stored information until needed again. Like your number, kapag mapaload ka, di ba, maalala mo ulit yung number mo kasi magpapaload ka. Sasabihin mo, or isusulat mo, or itatype mo, 091223000901. Or, for example, someone asked your name. Di ba, ang name mo, long-term memory naman yan siya. Capacity sa long-term memory mo is unlimited. So, unlimited yung name mo. Ang capacity sa name mo sa imo utak is unlimited. And ang duration niya is indefinite. Kapag sinabi natin indefinite, lasting for unknown length or period of time. So, posible na malimutan mo lang ang imo name if magkasakit ka na like Alzheimer disease or mamatay ka. Diba? Kasi, indefinite nga lasting in unknown amount of period or length of time. Yung duration ng long-term memory. Okay, that ends my discussion. Thank you for listening and I hope you learned something talaga in my discussion. If you have any more question, you can feel free to contact me or reach out to me on person or even in chat sa Messenger or Facebook. Okay? The next discussion will be all about executive control processes by Miss Maria Pamela T. Domino. She will be talking about forgetting and also other methods of information processing theory. Okay? Okay, that's all. And, for quiz pala. For quiz, let's see yun on-site na lang. Kasi doon tayo mag-quiz. According to Sir Warren, on-site po ang quiz. And also, you can rate me na, I think, at the end of this video. Please rate me truthfully or kung ano man ang ipakita ko sa inyo na discussion. You can rate me truthfully, honestly, and I'll accept that. And thank you for listening. Have fun learning and I hope you learn talaga on this discussion. Thank you. That's all.
Hi everyone, I am Maria Pamela T. Domino. I will continue the discussion about information processing. First, we have executive control process. It is a metacognitive skills. These processes guide the flow of information to the system, help the learner make informed decisions, how to categorize, organize, or interpret information. So, ang executive control process, amin ni siya nag-guide sa aton para kata makaisip kung paano maka-organize, categorize, kag-interpret sa information. For example, pag nag-answer kita sa word puzzle, which is nagagamit ta sa executive control process, na nakaisip kita kung paano natin ma-organize, kag ma-answeran ito na word puzzles. So, next we have forgetting. Forgetting is the inability to retrieve or access information we needed. Forgetting, amnesia ang pagkalimot sa impormasyon na dili ta na nadumduman or maibabalik pa. So, there are two main ways in which forgetting likely occurs. These are the decay and interference. First, decay. This is the information is not attended to and very prevalent in working memory. So, ang decay, amin siya ang information na dahil sa kadugayan na dili na naalala which is nagkakaigukatan short-term memory. So, for example, ang first data sa grade 1 kita which is dili na naalala dahil sa kadugayan ta na. So, nagkaigo ka tan short-term memory. So, amin siya ang decay. So, next, interference. New or old information blocks access to the information in question. So, amin yung mga bago kag lumata na impormasyon na dili ta na naaalala. Tapos na papahunga na lang kata, ano kaya ito nangyari sa ating sa ito na adlaw. So, amin na siya. So, next, the methods for increasing retrieval of information. We have rehearsal. This is repeating information verbatim. So, amo naman ini siya ang pautro-utrotan na ginasabi ang information para dili naton malimutan. For example, pag ginasugo kita sa aton mama pagbakal kunwari sa tindahan, kunwari, sige magbakal ka dito sa suka, tawyo, kaglana. So, ina siya, para dili ta malimutan, ginautro-utro ta baga pagsampot. Kunwari, suka, lana, tawyo. Irugsa na an aton para dili naton malimutan. So, pautro-utro. So, amin na ang rehearsal. So, next, meaningful learning. This is making connections between new information and stock knowledge. We have organization. It is making connections among various pieces of information. So, our organization naman, amin na nagahimon way para mabuot ta or maayos ta ang information na i-deliver ta. We have elaboration. This is adding additional ideas to new information based on what one already knows. So, an elaboration naman, amin ang pag-suggest sa idea or new idea batay sa hinatag pa na idea. For example, pag nagkakaigwakatan group activity, which is nagkakaigwakatan elaboration or brainstorming, ginadagdagan ta idea sa usad ta na member. So, para kita makabuo sa angkop na information. So, amin na ang elaboration. Next, we have visual imagery. This means forming a picture of the information. Ang visual imagery naman, amin ni ang pag nakakita ka tong picture na aaraman na natin ang idea kung ano bang ginapahiwatig niya. So, for example, paintings, drawing sa comics book, amin na siya ang visual imagery. So, next, generation. Things we produce are easier to remember than we hear. So, ang generation naman, amin ni ang mga bagay na madali ta natatandaan pag ginahimo ta or kesa sa nabatian ta lang. So, amo bagay na siya pag natatandaan taan bagay na ginhimo ta kaysa sa ginasabi ta. So, next we have context. Remembering the situations help recover information. So, ang remembering naman, amin ni an nakakabulig sa aton para matandaan ta kag mababalik ta pa ang information na nalimutan ta na. So, yan, amin na siya. Next, personalization. It is making the information relevant to individual. So, amin yung paghimo sa impormasyon na nakabase sa kamatuudan sa usad na tao, na nakabase sa sadirita. So, for example, si Algie ay matangkad. So, ina siya, matuod talaga na si Algie ay matangkad. So, nagasabi kita matuod, nakabase sa iya personality. So, yan. Memory methods. Serial position effect. You will remember the beginning and end less more readily. So, amin ni siya ang natatandaan ta lang ang sa una kag orhin na impormasyon kaysa sa tunga na information. So, for example, pag naga-grocery kita, which is may listahan kita na dara, na na ano tatandaan talangan sa una na nakalista tapos sa orhe tapos ang sa tunga nalilimutan ka na. So amin na siya ang serial position effect na kundi nalilimutan talaan sa middle na information. So yan. Next part learning. Break up the list or check information to increase memorization. So ang part learning naman amin ni siya ang pag himay-himay ta sa information para naton ma-memorize. So nag-aman siya ang strategy naton para kita maka-memorize gina sentence by sentence taanay tapos amo na pag na memorize na tanan ibubuo ta na ang pag sa ulo. Mnemonic aids. These are memory techniques that learners may employ to help them retain and retrieve information more effectively. So, ang mnemonic aids naman, amin siya ang strategy or technique na magagamit ta para dili ta malimutan ang information. For example, ito oral, anal, phallic, and genital. So, si Sir Warren, naghatag siya para mapadali ang pag-memorize sa ito na upat na OA palagi sa sex assignment Freud. So, amit siya ang usad na example sa mnemonic aids na para dili ta malimutan ang information. Next, we have the information processing model. So, nakikita tayo na ang model kung paano kita makareceive sa information. So, information is received through the senses. And makakato siya sa sensory memory kag may possible siya na makadto sa decay. So pagtapos sa decay, it goes to short-term memory na maga-perceive sa long-term memory na ang long-term memory pwede siya maibabalik pa ang information. So, it is provide with theory on how humans process information. So, ini siya ay nakabatay siya sa tao at dili siya sa stimuli sa environment. Kundi sa tao lamang siya na kundi nakabuo kita information. Okay, that's all. I hope na damo ka mo na araman sa amon. So, be ready for the quiz na lang. Thank you.